I'm going to get Jasper from preschool in a minute. Oh, it's another roasting day. This place is amazing at the moment. I love it when it's like this. Got the old pump going. Make sure we've got nice clean pool water. And I'm running that pump off of this. Solar powered pool care. Boom! As my car's been sitting out in the sun for the last 4 or 5 hours, I'm going to use the app to try and cool it down before I have to get into it. I do find that sometimes the app takes a little while to connect, so I'm hoping that's not today. Oh, here we go, we're off. In wintertime I use the stay always connected setting in the car. I probably should have done that this time as well. And we're in business. Okie dokie. 42 degrees, not good. Soph is absolutely loving the hot weather. Reminds you of when you grew up in Thailand, doesn't it, Soph?
Yeah.
Are you decent?
No.
That's okay. This weather is amazing. It's a shame it's not going to last. It never does, not in this country anyway. Listen to this. That is the aircon working full blast. Getting into a cool car makes so much difference. Mind you, getting into a warm car in winter is also pretty nice. So what I wanted to talk about today is something that was actually brought up in a comment. And that is, will the rise of EVs cost governments money in terms of their fuel duty? Will governments therefore respond by finding some innovative way to tax EVs or tax electricity or more if it's used for transport or something like that? Helps to have a sort of handle on the numbers. So I did a little bit of Googling and this is what I found out. In 2014, the UK used something like 1.4 billion litres of fuel. Can't remember if it said petrol or petrol and diesel. Either way, it was 1.4 billion, in that sort of ballpark. So even if we assume tax was £1 a litre that the government gets from it, which it isn't, it's something more like sort of 78p, somewhere in that sort of range most likely. Yeah, we'll call it £1 anyway. So if it's £1 a litre, then we're talking £1.5 billion a year the government gets from fuel duty. And that does sound like a lot, doesn't it? Except they get about 43 billion pounds from corporation tax alone. So, I mean, that is a significantly larger number. You know, even if we took 3 billion as being the fuel duty contribution, you'd be talking, you know, less than 10% of corporation tax. And there are some serious upsides for a government to EVs. For one thing, it means you don't have to import as much energy in the form of fossil fuels of various kinds. You can rely on your homegrown nuclear and renewable energy industries to fuel your transport needs. And that has a fundamental effect on the balance of payments for a country. Almost all countries import large quantities of fuel. Obviously there are some very notable exceptions to that, but certainly the UK imports a lot of fuel. If it had to import less fuel, then there would be far more money to go round the economic cycle between sort of government and public and all the rest of it. And I believe the positive impact of that will significantly outweigh any negatives that come from, you know, a loss of fuel duty as EVs become the dominant form of transport. And then there are other benefits as well. And don't forget, I think they reckon something like 50,000 people a year die prematurely because of pollution related illnesses, and a large proportion of that pollution comes from the use of petrol and diesel cars at street level in cities right next to where people are walking and cycling. It's obviously not. I mean, that cannot be a sensible idea, to pollute right next to where people are trying to do exercise and walk and get, a breath of fresh air. Ironic turn of phrase. This is something that I think will have quite a noticeable impact, and I suppose the only real problem with all of this is most of the upsides for a government's finances that come from EVs are difficult to quantify and measure, and so I suppose there is that. And I think probably down the line there will be a sort of a per mile road tax, for want of a better way of putting it, because I can't believe the government will pass up the opportunity to introduce something like that. But at the same time, their reason for introducing that tax will not be to make up for lost revenue, although they might try and make it seem that way, but it really won't be. The reason why they'll introduce a tax like that is because they'll need to find a way of disincentivizing people from driving when they don't need to, because the roads just can't handle the number of cars. That'll be the sort of driving force, I think. But it's an interesting subject, and I'd be fascinated to see what everyone thinks about that. I mean, a lot of people think the government is a sort of against them and sort of takes every opportunity it can to make life harder for people than it needs to be, but I don't really think that's the case at all. I think they're just ordinary people for the most part, trying to do their job, and their job just happens to be trying to run the country, and it's not a job I would want, that's for sure, especially at the moment. Of course, there are other benefits potentially to large-scale uptake of EVs. One of those is if you've got lots and lots of vehicles and lots of batteries, you're probably going to wind up with lots and lots of second-hand batteries that you can use for stationary storage. And also, electric vehicle to grid systems are certainly possible, and they can certainly they're probably going to become much more common when EVs become more common. So what that enables the government to do is better utilise its existing power infrastructure and optimise the number of power stations it needs. And the amount of money that could be saved from that would easily outweigh any fuel duty that's lost. So I think the upsides for government are substantial. As I said, I think if a new road tax is introduced, it will only be to try and stop people from driving as much. And that won't be because the government is mean, it'll be because there just isn't the space for any new roads. You ran off? Oh, okay. Well, we're going to head off home now and relax in the pool. Yeah, we're going to go in the pool after you've had a sleep. A little bit of play after you've had your sleep. Okay, anyway. Well, if this isn't swimming pool weather, I don't know what is. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you tomorrow for the next instalment of my daily vlog. Swimming.